All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In. We're in the Santa Monica studios. We've got tons of tennis, hard court swings upon us. We're going to recap Olympics, Citi Open, all that and more with Mark Petchey. Back again on the show. You never know what to expect, but I like you. Keep me on my toes, but as sharp as they come in tennis. Thanks for coming back.
We'll see, Mitch. We'll see. You know, a couple of home runs, but we'll see. You got to miss one occasionally.
It's the best. There's nobody better at that, and the excitement and energy level is great. I know you're ready to call some matches in Canada today. Before we get to that, there's a lot of chatter, and we have the Olympics, and of course the Citi Open. Before we get to the tennis, though, I just want to know, we were talking before, have you kind of been swept up like I've been in the Olympic fever? Because it's weird to say that every 4 years there's sports that I almost forget exist, and then I'm glued to the screen for a couple weeks.
Yeah, like BMX biking. Who thought you'd be watching that? I have been. You know, it's been weird. Yeah. Like when I first, when the Olympics first started, the first 2 or 3 days, I have to say I was a bit like, I don't know what it was, but ever since then, I've been hooked. Every night, I've been prime time, catching up on all the results. It's been awesome.
It has. There's nothing like a good old-fashioned race, too, like the track and field. We've had our girls, Gabby Thomas, Sydney McLaughlin's in her heat. And I saw the British girl, Keely Hodgkinson, winning the medal and doing it in dominant fashion, too. So she looks like she's next up for British sprint.
Well, we over the pond, we thank you for how brutal your US qualifying is in track and field, because we don't have it quite as brutal as that. Because I think Mu, who really should have been there, the former, the Olympic champion, got tripped up in the first lap, couldn't catch up, and then ended up not being there. As a fan, I kind of feel a little bit robbed, because I would have loved to have seen Keely race her. So anyway, thank you. That was great of you guys.
Yeah, only a few.
Keep it as tough as you can, because you just opened the door for us.
It's perfect. I know you were talking about Ledecky too. What she does in the pool is just, has that Pac-12. I know it used to be the Pac-12, but you've seen what she's done and how she's just a tank and really somehow doesn't get tired swimming.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a bit like Novak, obviously.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it, but to watch somebody that has such an unconditional love for something that is brutal in terms of the training, the time away that we don't see, that those hours, those 4 a.m. starts in the pool. When I look at somebody like Kate, I am just in awe. I literally cannot believe.
It's also weird too, right, to think, okay, we all can appreciate sport. You were at the professional level, what it takes to be good, what it takes to be great. But then when you're that much better than the field, that's another stratosphere that I don't even think many pro athletes can even understand.
No, I think she's probably happy that she's had Titmus to push her in the 800 in particular, because that's kept her sharp. And I think that has been something that will always be. And again, we can refer it to tennis. You look at the big four, the way that they've kept each other sharp, pushing, improving, making changes. I think it's the same for the 800 was tight, was never it wasn't a clear cut thing. But yeah, the 1500 is just something else.
It's remarkable. Well, on the tennis front, we got Mark Petchey here. We're going to break down the biggest story of the Olympics and probably the tennis year. When you think about it, Novak Djokovic gets his gold medal, 37 years old. It took him, 5 Olympic games to do it. All the ups and downs that he had in the games. It was the only thing he hadn't won. The amount of pressure that was on him to win that match, because it's more than likely his last best chance at it. And he beats the hottest player in tennis, winner of the last three out of the last 5 Grand Slams, and Carlos Alcaraz beats him in straight sets. It was a masterclass in terms of tennis and strategy, Mark, but also, yet again, just rising to the moment for Novak Djokovic.
The golden goat. Say it quietly. I've always gone for the greatest of this era, but my goodness me, that was something else. When you look at his year, you look at the lack of top 10 wins, the lack of tournament wins, you look at the knee problem that he sustained at the French. He's not just a phenomenal tennis player, which of course he is, because you can't be great without being a phenomenal. You can't just be a mental giant. You can't just be a physical beast. You also have to be an amazing tennis player. I think personally what Novak did on Sunday was his greatest ever achievement. I mean, I know you can. I know repeating, in John Wooden's words, is the hardest thing in sport. Winning it once is not easy, but repeating shows the character. But as you just said, Mitch, coming back 5 times, wanting to win it, wanting to achieve everything in the sport, he has climbed every single summit.
It's really insane to put into words what he did. I agree with all that. It was his greatest achievement. Even Wimbledon, even the U.S. Open and Roland Garros and Aussie, you lose, there's still the next year. this was it for him. This was, and the amount of pressure, like you can't even imagine what he'd put on himself, how much he loves Serbia, loves being Serbian, the national pride. This was his one last chance, and he played unreal. Alcaraz didn't even play bad. We'll get to that in a second. The amount of serving under pressure that both these gentlemen did was just outstanding. And then we get to the tiebreaker, and Djokovic saves his legit best for last. Some of those cross-court forehands were remarkable. The guy just every time. It's like every time you count him out, think maybe this is it. There's a doubt. He just has to remind you that he can keep doing it, and he has that championship DNA to, as you said, go with the all-time great skill that he has.
Yeah, and I think that sort of level of deep-rooted self-belief comes in again away from the camera. I mean, I think hopefully he's going to come out with that documentary that we know he's kind of filming at the moment, and I can't wait to see it. You know, I'm actually not somebody that massively waits for things and wants to see things like that, but I can't wait to see what Novak went through from that knee issue that he had at the French to what he's done at the Olympics. But as you say, I mean, it's not just the winning; it's the way that he wins, the challenge that he comes from Carlos, the new kid on the block who's got himself through to that stage. And as you say, Carlos has got less pressure at that moment because he's got time on his side. Novak had to hit it perfectly. He had to get 10 out of 10 on Sunday. And he is Mr. Sunday, let's be honest. He's Mr. Sunday in tennis.
He is. Coming back to play Alcaraz, too, who had beaten him in straight sets at Wimbledon. Very hard to do as well. Did
he lull him into full sense of security? Was this the great master plan? Was this what he thought about? It's like, I'm just going to play a little suboptimal in a Grand Slam final, and then I'm going to get you on the other side.
That's the quote that's going to be taken out of context right there. Wimbledon was his warm-up. But I do agree. And I just want to point out how insane it is that we're having this like pretty much close to generational rivalry, and these guys are 16 years apart.
Yeah.
That never has happened before. We've got two players crossing ships in the night, but they're crossing at just the right time.
Yeah, and you know what's so great about like sport, tennis, narrative, opinions? People after Wimbledon was like, yeah, that's the right result because, you know, the guy's got a dodgy knee. He's 37 years old. This guy should be cuffing him in the way that he did, you know, and then it's suddenly like on the other side of it, it's like, yeah, you can't keep greatness down for too long.
No.
It doesn't stay down for long.
And you knew his mind was going to work differently. Every time Novak loses, even going back to his physical peak, if you want to try to find where that was, he adjusts. When he loses, he learns and he figures out a way to throw a new strategy. It's very combat sports-like. He's even said that he's judging with eye contact. It's, you know, he's made the parallels himself to physical sports like boxing or MMA, that he is going to show you a different fight, a different look next time. I was just going to ask on the Alcaraz front, Mark, because we've talked about it and he does have a lot of time left. This feel a little bit, I know it wasn't as long and physical, but that Cincinnati match too, where you look at that match in the mirror and you say, wow, I was right there, had my chances. In a way, it's going to hurt. It did hurt, obviously. He's got a good learning lesson here to go and get even better, like we saw after he lost that Cincinnati match.
Mitch, I think you make a great point because again, you look at Novak's career, you look at the losses that he suffered, and they made him a better player, and then he became somebody that was virtually unstoppable. And I think the same can be said for somebody like Carlos. That was a painful loss, arguably the most painful loss of his career, I would say, given the fact that he wanted that goal for Spain, the fact that in many people's eyes he was the favourite going into that particular Olympic final. The fact that he lost. But again, I think it will be easier in time to swallow because of who it was.
Yeah, I agree with that too. 21 years old, plenty of Olympics left. We think nothing's guaranteed, and 4 years brings a lot of change. I just love too how much it means. The good and the bad, right? The Olympic tennis, we've talked players going, players not going. We understand that there's singles and there's major implications, prize money and, you know, everything in that regard. But to see these guys care, to see Novak actually shaking when he won that gold medal, the emotional celebration, and the other side of the coin is how much it hurt Alcaraz. It gives me, you know, hope that this is going to be a long time thing and that the Olympics are going to keep mattering.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's a great discussion. I don't know how long we got today. At the start of, obviously, the Olympics, you feel like with players coming from other tournaments late, you know, and you look at all the other Olympians who have just been spending the last 4 months of their life literally trying to peak for this moment. Right. You're kind of like, how many of these people are coming here to fire up their Tinder accounts and get more Instagram followers, and how many pins can I get? And there were more holes in the draw at the start than there are on a golf course. And then you get to the back end of the tournament and you're going, this is probably the most meaningful tennis event of all time. And so you have a great paradox, and cognitive dissonance in abundance about this event. I would like to see a smaller draw, personally. I would also be in favor of just going to a team event. But then when I watch Novak and Carlos at the end, and Zheng and all of that, what happened,
and the crowd too.
Yes,
like the crowd was a real sports crowd. I don't want to judge too much, but it was
absolutely. Yeah. And I think when I look at the yin and the yang from that point of view, the push and the pull, I'm in favor of keeping singles in there. I just don't think it's a great look when people are playing singles and they pull out of the mixed, because it doesn't matter. It's an Olympic medal. Every event needs to matter as much. Yes. If they can't play 3 events, then they should only enter 2, or we get rid of the mixed and we just go with the singles and the doubles.
I think that's some very good points. We don't have enough time to dive into all the nuances there. But I did want to mention, too, with Novak, before we move on to other topics, it's the first time he's ever said, yes, I'm complete now. I'm satisfied. He said it in his post-match interview. I think that there's still a lot that he wants to do because he finds so much joy in tennis. I think the only motivation now, other than obviously the next slam, is to prove that he can be the standard bearer for however long he can go. But he doesn't have to worry about that gold medal hole in his resume anymore.
Yeah, he's created this moment, hasn't he? He's created it. Yeah. He's created the mic drop moment if he wants it in his career. And I said, probably wrongly, and it wouldn't be the first time, that if he won gold, he may walk away, because I'm like, what, does he want 100 titles? Does he want to put on one? Does he want to beat Connors' tally? There's obviously motivating factors. Right. No matter even when he becomes president of Serbia, this is still going to be the thing that he's the best at in his entirety of his life. I don't know. Nobody can answer that. But if he did decide that this was it, I don't think you couldn't ask for a better script. You couldn't. Well, it's amazing what he does athletically. You just have to marvel at what he's achieved. Lastly, on the men's singles, you mentioned players that were coming in late in the tournaments. One of the guys that won the bronze medal. Shout out to Musetti. Lorenzo Musetti has had a renaissance in his career. Still a young 22-year-old player getting bronze medal. You saw what it meant to him, and for Italy, another winner on their side. Pretty cool to see another young guy emerge and take that leap. Yeah, and also just to continue what he's done over, different surfaces, going back and forth, not having any letdown after Wimbledon. Obviously a big achievement for him to get through to the semis. And again, as you say, it was a huge moment for Musetti, and that also sways me in terms of where we sit with everything. And he's going to take confidence from that and carry it forward. But I mean, listen, he's keeping the single-hander alive. He certainly is. Not that many are at that level. I'll take Musetti all day. He's going to keep that stroke alive for the next decade. I saw, you know what, you bring that up because I know you're modest about your career. I saw a highlight of yours recently against Agassi. You lost in 3, but you were coming in net. You were ripping the single-hander. Well, that's because you didn't see my ground strokes as much. Because if I had seen that, it would have been done in 2. Just charge into the net, chip and charge. I knew my strength, and it wasn't at the back with Andre. No, you're not the only one, I think, that would say that. There's a lot of other stuff in the Olympics, obviously, just to kind of quickly touch on it. Yeah. On the later part of the podcast, we're going to get to Quinn winning the gold. It was remarkable what she did for China. On the doubles side, Ebden and Piers getting that gold medal for Australia was big. It was, again, not a lot of their singles players in doubles. There was other storylines. We saw 2 talented doubles teams in the final, Rajiv Ram and Austin Krajicek coming up short, but the Aussies, and they know how to celebrate it too, get that gold medal. Yeah, credit to them. They were down and out all the way through sort of for almost 2 sets, and they managed to dig it out and kept competitive, kept in the same zip code the whole way through that second set when it looked like Rajiv and Austin were going to run away with it. But I think great for doubles. I think great for the fact that, you've got all these singles players playing, and then at the end you have 2 traditional doubles teams. How do you package it? How do you make it an even better product when it's out on the tour? Because clearly when it's in those moments like that, there's almost nothing better. I like that idea too, just quickly on it, that, Mark Knowles, who's in these meetings too, said that these expanded Masters, which is another hot button topic, but doing the doubles later is going to keep some singles guys around and maybe draw some excitement. So I'm cool with trying stuff, although like Ben Shelton said, I don't know that I'd want myself mic'd up live. Yeah, the live mic's going to be an interesting one. Yeah. We're going to have to get somebody very quick on the buzzer. We certainly are. Mark Petchey here on Tennis Channel Inside In. Well, I got to get your thoughts, too, because it's obviously from your native land and someone you know very well, but Andy Murray's retirement officially done. The run with him and Dan Evans, winning those matches, saving match points, was exciting. It was very cool to see him have fun on the way out, but
What was your reaction to just the run in the Olympics and then ultimately Andy Murray saying goodbye?
Yeah, just a big thanks to Andy for 20 years of unbelievable entertainment, showing the path for so many of the British juniors that will be coming through, for giving it absolutely everything, for hopefully when he sits down on his couch and finally can't move because the hip seizes up, that he can look back and cherish and feel extremely proud of the career that he's had, because, you know, he came through with no blueprint. It was 77 years since we had a player that had won the men's singles at Wimbledon. And obviously, you know, around that time, it had been a bit lean. And what Andy managed to achieve and sustain in that era was a testament to his character, his will. And I hope ultimately the legacy does happen up in Scotland with Judy Murray's, centre. The greatest tribute that we as a country can play to Andy isn't the Andy Murray Arena at Queen's Club, which will happen during the tournament. It will not be a bronze statue at Wimbledon. It will happen naturally. It will be thousands of kids playing. That's what will make him feel as though his entire journey was even more beneficial.
Right, and I really liked how the stories came out that he's all about helping the young generation. He loved those last Pacific Davis Cup teams, playing with Draper, playing with the young guys coming up. The funny exchange with Brody on Twitter. And then, of course, I don't even like tennis anyway, which was just fun. I mean, he's underratedly funny, as you know. So I did want to.
Not that funny.
No, not that funny. Underrated. Like, we don't think he's funny, and then he's kind of funny.
Yeah, occasionally he's funny.
Well, I did want to say one thing. This is the only video portion of the podcast I want to add, but I found some throwbacks to you guys because you worked with them back in the day.
Correct.
So I'm going to go through a couple of these quickly. Just you and Andy back in the day. That was an interesting one too. Andy go ahead.
Yeah, he was having a laugh. I'm not quite sure about my red shirt there. That's kind of blending in. As you can see, I've got more hair now than I did then.
Yes, you do. And then this is 2015 finals. So I dug this one up too, back when you were media and you guys were just catching up. But is there certain things about Andy that we don't know, that maybe from the inside, anything that, you don't want to reveal too much, but
I think one of the things, he's probably the most kind-hearted, generous person away from the camera that you'll ever meet. Softly spoken. He expects you to have your facts and your information, and he'll certainly probe and push if you don't really feel that. But in terms of being willing to do things for people, he's one of the kindest people I've known. I mean, I was fortunate enough, obviously, at the start of his career for him to spend time with my young girls at the time, and he was adorable, and he isn't a guy that loves confrontation. You know, one of the things you see about Andy on the court is confrontation with himself, or it seems like with the box. But actually away from the court, Andy doesn't like any of that. Yeah,
you guys, I don't know if it was you or Judy or somebody, but getting him to stop punching his racket and bleeding I don't know if that was your work, but.
Yeah, we did try and have a little conversation. That was certainly something like he did at the start, where he was doing it quite a lot and he was getting bleeding knuckles. It didn't really stop him though.
No.
Don't tell him too many things.
It was remarkable, and there's going to be much to talk about his legacy and how he made it a Big Four, which is a testament to getting involved in the conversation with those three is just insanely impressive. The last thing, though, what do you think is going to be kind of next? Do you think there's going to be like a commentary career, or do you think he'll be involved in the game somehow?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to need to do something. It's just the way he's, like, his DNA. I honestly believe that you should break open the bank to have him as a coach. I don't know how much he needs the money, but if I were him, or if I were the LTA, I would just want to get him involved in tennis. He's an inspirational character, and he can fast track players through some of the obstacles that are in their way. I think coaching will outweigh commentary. I think he would be unbelievable on commentary. I'm not sure that it's his passion, but he may do a little bit of it, just dip in and out.
Right. It's like he wants stakes kind of still in the game. Like he wants to have an impact on winning and losing.
He just loves it so much. I mean, Mitch, this is the thing about these. They are built differently. And, I remember hitting with Stefan Edberg for 3 years after he quit. 3 years. He was still beating Tim Hemman, who was top 10 at the time, in practice. Okay? And he couldn't love the game more in that period of time for 3 years when he had stopped. And I was almost like, why did you stop? It's like, well, I just didn't think I was going to do as well as I wanted to do. But that deep-rooted love of something is overwhelming to these guys. Right. And it's very hard for them. That's what makes it so hard to step away. Because for all of us mortals, we sit there and go, well, you've done everything. You've got $500 billion in the bank. Why don't you go off and do something else?
They just love it.
They just love it.
Wow. Well, it's impressive again. Props to Andy Murray and Dan Evans for another entertaining Olympic storyline. There was pro tennis as well, as you were calling matches here from the Citi Open, and we got some interesting championship winners and some players that needed some results and are really going to springboard their summers. Starting on the men's side with Sebi Korda. Sebastian gets the title, his biggest of his career, title number 2. Battled back against Kokkinakis to win that match and then rolled through Tiafoe, came back from Cobolli and bageled that third set. So Sebastian Korda, he'd been knocking on the door. We've been thinking, okay, is this guy going to enter the conversation? This could be the launching pad he needed.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's really weird, isn't it, Mitch?
Yeah.
We keep talking about like, oh, what's he up to? And then you look at his ranking and you're like, oh, he's a career high 19 in the world.
I saw he was losing, and all the losses were good players. That's what I was looking at. Like Demonauer's been on a tear. He lost him in that final. And he gets some tough draws. Wimbledon, he runs into the buzzsaw that was Pesci Pericard.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. The ranking was there. I think we were just waiting. Like we expected it. Like, okay, it's going to happen. Here it is. He wins the title his dad won. First father-son to ever win the same title. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the skill set. I'm seeing the demeanor. I'm also seeing the intangibles that he's going to have his hat in the race for top American.
No question. I mean, it's almost like the curse of competence. Yeah. He's that good that we were kind of almost saying, well, why are you not single figures? And anything outside of that isn't good enough. But you suddenly go back, as you say, looking last week and going, he's actually having a great year. And some of the obstacles and the speed bumps he's hit have been people that have been lighting it up. And so I thought Sebi's match against Francis in the semi was the best match I've ever seen him play. And for me, there is unquestionable that he's going to be top 10 in the next 12 months.
That's a good question. Was that his best match? The only one I'm thinking is Medvedev at AO, but either way, those are two really good performances, and that was the wrist injury. Like if he doesn't get hurt there, how is he right now? But yeah, I think you watch a player like that, and going into DC, we were saying, okay, the field's a little not depleted, but there's players playing the Olympics who can step up, and then we're going to see it in Canada too, but there's something about seizing that opportunity and riding the momentum. A lot of these U.S. Open, Canadian Masters, Cincinnati Masters runs started with good weeks in D.C. or good tournaments beforehand. So this could be something to kind of star as we will go ahead and go forward.
It's important to get confidence. Yeah. Confidence will solve a lot of things. I thought Sebi's forehand was awesome throughout the course of Washington. His backhand is always immaculate. But the serve, as you track it over the years, is just getting better and better. More free points, not necessarily more aces. And so when you have the skill set he has off the ground, you're going to break once, twice a set. So if you're holding your serve as a fortress, you can only get better.
Cobolli makes the final. It doesn't end well, but I mean, still a great run for him. Talk about cracking some forehands from what I saw. It's got a cannon there. It was that match against Holger at RG where I'm like, this forehand's insane. So.
And the serve is so underrated. I mean, the guy looks like he's going to blow over in a gentle breeze, and he's popping 130s. He's cranking 85 mile an hour plus forehands regularly, and you're like, wow, what are they doing in Italy for timing? It is immaculate.
The match against Shelton, did you look at that as him just raising his level and stepping up, or were there things Ben did that kind of left more to be desired?
I think it was a tough situation for Ben, having to go out and play on the John Harris court. That wasn't ideal. Great crowd, by the way, in Washington. The bunch of troopers out there with the weather they had. I thought that was a little difficult for Ben. I do feel as though at times he's still trying to find his best rhythm from the back of the court and how often to come in and how often to stay back. We always want the finished product before it's really ready to be finished. And I think Ben's got another 12 months to figure that out.
There is something to be said, as you can say, with British's Emma Raducanu about overachieving early and then being like, hey, we're not a finished product yet. There is a target on him too because of what he did and all the gifts that he showed. So I think he's probably realized by now, obviously, that he's getting a lot of these players' best shots.
He's gonna, the pressure's on him. The pressure is very much. He is he is one of your many lighthouses in men's American tennis right now. And obviously, the way that he performs and everything else, he's getting an awful lot of the attention. But if you look at the other players, you would have to say that they are slightly more secure from the back of the court. They return a little bit better. Ben serve obviously kind of negates those deficiencies, but he's still got so much time on his hands to figure it out. But there are definitely, and it's exciting. It must be exciting for Brian. He's done this well, and I feel like his ceiling is still probably a little bit bigger than the other players. So if they can figure that out, I mean, it's going to be a pretty awesome package at the end of it.
If the patience stays true, which I think it will too, because you're going to work on things that might not, as you know, coaches, they're not always going to be home run ideas. They might be a step back, and then we throw those out and go on.
Correct. That's a big part of it at the moment. You know, I do feel like that sometimes on his forehand, he's pulling up a little bit too much, doesn't stay through the ball. If you watch Rafa, it always looks like he pulls up, but actually if you look at the swing plane, it is right through the ball, holding the ball on the strings, and then finishes up. I think Ben at times is probably overspinning the ball on the forehand side, because obviously if he can find a way to make his forehand as complete as his serve, I mean, it's going to be tough to beat.
Probably not going to fire Dad either, so we got some continuity there.
Brian knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. We always talk about continuity in tennis coaching. It's good that we have some there.
Yeah.
The women's side was Paula Badosa from wildcard to D.C. champ, wins the Citi Open. And it was a feel-good story for a lot of reasons. We all know what she's been through and getting her body right and just being out there. But to do what she did, to battle through the elements, as you said, play a lot of physical matchups, show that her body can stand up, also show what kind of player she is, the weapons and the aggressive nature that she has, was a really standout performance.
Yeah, no fluke that you're world number 2. You don't get to those sort of lofty heights without being a great player. And actually, she showed all of those attributes, and she needed to show them all the way through Washington. Determination, speed, athleticism, firepower, heavy serving. Forehand was pretty impressive. And also, what is she now, 4-0 in finals? When she makes it to the last hurdle, she doesn't fail. And I think that that's also something that just underlines her character. I mean, you can't not be happy for somebody that hasn't made a final for 31 months, has been through the agony of the back problems, is having injections to keep herself on the tour. You deserve moments like this. And she's gone out there and she's earned it.
What I like about watching her play is she's going to go down on her shield. She is not going to play timid out there. And dealing with adversity. It looked like it was going to be routine. Buzkova, who was redlining a lot of that tournament, really, especially that second, early third set, mixed things up, gave her some, trouble, but she just reset and was able to get it done. So it was an impressive performance. Somebody that, again, we were looking at the contenders in this tournament. There wasn't the deepest field. She said, "Why not me?" and she delivered.
Yeah, and Buzkova's one of those great people that's like the sort of artist that makes you beat yourself, and that is a very underrated quality.
She did that to Sabalenka.
Yeah, and it's a very underrated quality in tennis. We talk a lot about being proactive, get on the front foot, take time away. She's somebody that can make you doubt yourself, and I think that also spoke volumes for Paula when she won, because it would have been easy in those moments to actually go, "Oh, what should I do? Should I just put the ball in the court, or I don't want to miss because she's making me miss." So I think she handled that amazingly well.
Yeah, Buzkova is fun watching her variety, and it's nice to see. We're seeing players that do well in doubles also do well in singles. Paolini won gold medal, Krejcikova winning Wimbledon. So some stuff there. Well, the last thing on Citi Open, because I got to get your opinion on this. The statement came out today from Denis Shapovalov, that match, how everything went down with Ben Shelton in that match. Down match point, down a couple match points. He gets defaulted essentially for going at it with a fan. Got his prize money back, got his ranking points back, also got fined $36,000, which isn't necessarily chump change. But he wants players to be protected. He doesn't think that that was a fair ruling, and he thinks that it shouldn't happen again like that. So big picture, 20,000 feet, your reaction to the whole situation and where we are on this Tuesday as we record.
I come from a country that soccer is a religion. And if you go on a Saturday afternoon and hear what the fans say to those footballers when they're taking a corner, or the referee when they make a bad decision, but more importantly, the footballers, what they're said to, I don't really have an awful lot of, as an athlete, you just need to rise above that. It may not feel great and you probably don't like it, but actually the bottom line is, you just got to rise above it. And if it's that bad, the tournament should be kicking him out. They should be able to take him out, go get the supervisor. This is what was said, get rid of them out of the stadium. But honestly, I just don't think that you should be biting back at that person. If the rules are different in like the NBA and everything else, the players have got more leniency, then that's on a different sport. You can't use that as your kind of mirror. You've got to go with what we do. And I think that it was a rash decision to default him straight away. But at the same time, I think he needs to take a step back and go, listen, in that situation, I need to handle it better, because I can tell you the soccer guys in the UK, they take way more abuse and it's horrific at times. They just have to rise above it. What are you going to do? Clear out 70,000 fan stadium. You're just not going to.
Go to an NFL game here in the States. You'll hear some stuff too.
Does it make it right? No, it doesn't make it right, but you can't win that fight.
I agree. I mean, it's a very nuanced thing, which is, not what people want to hear, but yes,
You're right.
I don't know exactly what was said. Doesn't sound like it was too egregious either way, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I do think tennis does a great job in the fans of policing it. If something really is said, then someone's probably going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
Don't think Dennis should have gotten defaulted either. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you're going to get heckled. You're going to have people cheering against you and rising above it. But put it this way, I bet you Novak's heard worse en route to a lot of those titles, and he thrives off of it.
Totally, and he's made, and as you say, he's found a way to turn that into motivation. Yeah. And I think if Dennis is looking anywhere, look to Novak and go, all right, that's what I'm going to do.
And if it crosses a line, that's one thing, but it doesn't sound like it did. I think that we can, I know tennis is a great sport. It's one of the best, if not the best sports. It has areas where I'd like to see it kind of be more normalized, like other things, and this would be one of them, where he doesn't have to be as strict in this regard.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think we want to see emotion. What we're doing in tennis is taking emotion out of the game. We're taking all electronic line calling. It's going to stop people from showing emotion. You're going to get all the crazy characters becoming normal. So we're going to give you a steady diet of normal, which I don't think is necessarily the right thing for the sport, because I think that we're in an entertainment business on top of that. So I do think that there needs to be some kind of width and common sense applied in these moments.
Right. I love that take too. It's like no electronic line calling isn't the best, because we are not going to get those passionate moments anymore.
We're not, and I don't understand why everybody in the sport is so. Like, I'm definitely one of the minority. Everyone, we've got to get these calls right. Everybody knows that all electronic line calling isn't 100% right. It's as good as we can get. It's a bit like democracy. It's the best thing is.
And you were calling the Billie Jean King Cup tie where the camera broke, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's going to go wrong. We're going to get power down. We're not going to have backup at certain tournaments. There's going to be chaos when we have it at certain events around the world, because people are not going to be able to afford all the auxiliary things that you need. And so for me, it's like, what is wrong with the challenge system? How bad is it? And I'm sitting at Wimbledon as a fan, and people are like, well, let's go. It adds a bit of drama to the whole thing. I'm, as I say, I'm in the minority. Everybody seems to think that we've got to get perfect. Like, life isn't perfect. Why are we trying to create this utopia? It doesn't exist.
I love it. No, I agree. I think the emotion that we've seen in some of the controversial calls, which aren't really ripoffs all the time. They're just close calls, and sometimes they go your way, sometimes they don't. That's like life.
There you go. You got me today, and it could have been so much. You could have Jim Courier in here, and you got me.
Yeah. Jim
There's the rub.
Yeah, there it is. There's definitely the rub. Look forward to our annual chats with Jim Courier later. Mark Petchey, this has been a blast. Last thing before I let you go here on Tennis Channel Insight, an open-ended question, I'm sure, but thoughts on what you're looking forward to with Canada, and then the quick run-up 3 weeks away from the U.S. Open.
Yeah, it comes fast, doesn't it? Life comes at you fast. I'm excited about everything. From a British perspective, I'm really excited about Emma. I do feel as though she's getting back to her best, and she doesn't need a lot of matches to get back to her best. So yeah, probably a little myopically. I'm very excited about. I'm excited to see how Coco goes defending. Cincy US, handling that pressure. I'm sure she'll be fine, but it's obviously a big thing for her. I hope to see Sabalenka back to her best. That will be exciting. On the men's side, we've just gone from another brilliant once in a lifetime to another forever. And Yannick and Carlos, getting them all back onto court, watching the others having to try and push their way through. I couldn't be more excited.
Right. I think there's certain players that are built for this time of year that'll step up. I want to see what Medvedev has to offer. He's back on the hard courts. How are Alcaraz and Djokovic and Sinner again coming in after not playing the Olympics? But
Holger's got to get it back up and running. There's people there that are having little slumps that you're going to look at and go, can you find a way to get yourself out of this riptide quickly? Loads of stories.
Well, Mark Petchey, always a blast, always a pleasure. Thanks for, again, keep me on my toes, and also just being a great chatter and great conversationalist for the game of tennis. Good luck with everything. Calling matches. We'll be doing this again soon. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, as ever. Thanks, Mitch.